Well, there's been a marvellous start to the Devon County Show at Exeter. Lots of warm sunshine and big crowds for the first of this season's spectaculars. Well, this year, car parking was free, which helped to boost the numbers going through the turnstile.
This will be one of the last shows on the vastly overcrowded ground at Whipton. By 1990, it should be on a new site 3 times the size. The sunshine tempted people out in their shirt sleeves, with the Crocodile Dundee look much in fashion. Not that people are on show here, just the best livestock in the southwest. Even the most manly suffer the indignities of being coiffured and bouffonned, preening being an essential part of the ritual for any prima donna. Even animals, it seems, like to be centre stage, though some prefer to keep a safe distance between themselves and the hairbrush. This is what it's all about, being judged the best of your class, your breed, and hopefully the show. Some are reluctant starlets, and some like to make a song and dance. But the judges aren't looking for best behaviour, they seek more mysterious qualities, such as conformation. Deportment and the way a girl stands also seem important. You don't see many women judges in the cattle rings, but the sex barrier doesn't seem to apply, which is just as well when so many competitors are female.
We've got first prize for the heifer and milk class.
And did you think you got a winner there when you brought her in?
Yes, I think so. She's a nice heifer, you know. And her full sister has just won second prize in the heifer and calf class. So we expected her to do quite well.
The special theme of this year's show is the horse in all its shapes and forms, and everything to do with it. The age of the cart horse is by no means dead. Indeed, it could be on the way back. These horse-drawn implements are made at Payhembury near Honiton. The man who makes them, Charlie Pinney, says there's a big and growing market. He's selling them abroad, not just to backward countries, but to small farmers in Europe and America, not to mention those who still farm with horses here in Britain. There is, of course, the usual array of motorised equipment as well, and all the usual side shows. In the main ring, William the Conqueror returns to repeat his siege of Exeter all those years ago. It's a pageant with a cast of hundreds, including peasants, wenches, and soldiers knocking 7 bells out of each other, as history repeats itself twice daily until the show ends on Saturday.
Military bases all over the southwest are full of personnel who served in the Falkland Islands conflict 5 years ago. So a unique shop that's just been officially opened in Somerset will be of particular interest. From now on, if you want some Falkland Islands wool, a souvenir tea towel or perhaps some jewellery, you won't have to go thousands of miles to find it.
No one was better qualified to perform the opening ceremony than the man who was the governor of the Falkland Islands when they were invaded 5 years ago. It's all half a world away from the realities of that conflict, and there's nothing here directly related to it.
Oh, certainly not. It's all about the Falkland people. We heard all about the campaign in 1982, and most of us before that campaign didn't know where the Falklands were. Now, we've brought the Falklands to Britain, showing them the quality, the excellent quality of their woolen goods and the type of things they do out there. We also have films to show people the way of life out there.
We have Pebble Island jewellery. That's semi-precious stones from Pebble Island set in jewellery. We have the stamps of the islands and the coins. The wildlife artists, the Falkland artists, are absolutely marvellous. And there's such variety of wildlife on the islands.
And if that whets the appetite, the agency will even sell you a holiday there. Deluxe version about £2,500 with the RAF as your friendly airline. And you'll find the population of 2,000 making the most of their natural assets and keen to carry on doing so.
For the first year after the war, they didn't want to talk about the war. For the second year, they didn't want to talk about anything else. But since then, they have been looking to the future. The population is increasing, and with the new airport and with the extra revenue they're getting in from the licensing, the fish licensing now, they can make quite a viable island out of the country.
So it's a bright future for the Falklands.
It's a bright future as long as there's no give at this end on sovereignty.
A message Sir Rex wastes no opportunity of delivering, and one that whoever's in 10 Downing Street on June the 12th can expect to hear.
I bet they can. Well, time now to catch up with what else has been happening throughout the southwest today. Here at the news desk, Gillian Mars. Gillian.
Good evening. 20 people are to lose their jobs at Express Dairies in Exeter. The company says the redundancies have been caused by moving their accounts department from the Pinho depot to the firm's headquarters near London. The body of the murdered Devon nurse, Susan Frost, is being flown home from Australia. Susan's parents now live in South Brent, but Susan will be buried in Bodmin, her former hometown.
It's been 10 days since Susan was brutally murdered in the Undercroft car park of a West Australian supermarket. Since then, friends of the dead girl have been raising money so as her body could be returned to her parents for burial. It leaves Perth Airport tomorrow morning. Meantime, the man charged with her murder, known sex offender Darren Osborne, will have to run the gauntlet of angry Albany people again tomorrow when he reappears in the Albany Court of Petty Sessions for a remand hearing. And police say they'll get tough if there's a repeat of last week's ugly scenes when police and the accused had to run to escape an angry mob chanting for Osborne to be hanged. Mike Searle for TSW in Perth, Western Australia.
The opening of Dorchester's new £14 million district hospital has been delayed until September. It was originally planned for February, but was then put back to June. Now the Wessex Health Authority admits it will need to spend an extra £350,000 for equipment not thought of when it was originally designed. Major road improvements at the accident black spot of Halden Hill near Exeter have been completed after more than a year's work.
This was Halden Hill 3 years ago, the small staggered junction leading from Dunchillick village, crossing swords with the busy 6-lane A38. Since 1980, it's been the scene of 2 road deaths and 26 accidents, many involving elderly people. The new road has been funded by the Department of Transport to the tune of £1 million, and work is now virtually complete. Road engineers are confident the new underpass will stop continued concern over road safety surrounding the junction.
For traffic coming from Dunchillick, going across to Halden, has had to use the staggered crossroads and cross the very dangerous A38, which is now very heavily trafficked, of course. When the road was first built about 20 years ago, that was a relatively safe manoeuvre. But as the traffic volumes have built up, it's got more and more dangerous, and the accident statistics have got worse and worse. And the contractor, Dean and Diebold, has had 1 or 2 problems with ground conditions, with his sheet piling. But I suppose the major problem is been maintaining this heavy flow of traffic on the A38. So he's had to stage the construction into 2 parts.
I was going to say, have you had many complaints from motorists?
Well, I think motorists have been pretty tolerant. I think when they can see something being improved, they do tend to be pretty tolerant about these things, fortunately.
Do you think this will finally get rid of the dangers? We've had a number of fatalities in recent years.
I'm convinced it will, yes.
A nature reserve with a difference has opened in Somerset. The 44 acres of traditional meadow at Barrington Hill near Taunton have been bought by the Nature Conservancy Council. The meadow will be preserved for its rich mixture of wild plants, including orchids. It'll continue to be grazed in the traditional way. An 80-year-old teddy bear has been sold for nearly £4,000 at auction in Somerset. Horatio was bought by an American buyer. More than 200 people attended the sale at Crewkerne, where a number of other teddies and dolls were up for auction.
All right. 21, and I would bid 200 for the bulldog. 200.
Soccer and former Torquay United boss Stuart Morgan has started work as manager of Weymouth. The Vauxhall Conference League side sacked Brian Godfrey last month, and he's been replaced by Morgan, who signed what's believed to be a lucrative 3-year contract. Morgan walked out on Torquay yesterday because they wouldn't improve on a 1-year offer. This morning he inspected the Dorset club's new ground at Radipole Lane. The luxurious stadium should be ready for the start of next season. Meanwhile, Torquay say they'll be advertising the post of manager. Goalkeeper Kenny Allen is expected to apply. Volunteers have been putting the finishing touches to a magnificent display of blooms at Truro Cathedral. The Flower Festival is the culmination of 2 years' planning. 300 volunteers from parishes throughout Cornwall, along with members of the Methodist and Roman Catholic churches, have been involved. It's part of a year-long celebration marking the centenary of the consecration of the cathedral. The display is to open to the public from tomorrow until Monday evening, with an entrance fee of £1.50 for adults. Well, that's the news for the moment. Now back to Jilly.
Now the election, and every day it seems we're coming under a deluge of national opinion polls. But what those polls can't show is what the voters of the South West think about a particular issue. But this evening we'll be doing just that live on this programme. Here's our political editor, Chris Rogers.
The usual national opinion poll suffers two problems. Firstly, it doesn't reflect variations in opinion between different regions. And secondly, there's maybe 2 days delay before all the answers to the questions are published. Now that sometimes attracts criticism from politicians that they're out of date. Well, tonight we're solving both these problems with the TSW 200. Using the services of TV Interaction Limited, TSW has recruited a panel of 200 viewers across the South West who are representative of the whole region's population. Now, in a moment, I'll ask a question, and members of the panel at home, who hopefully have got the phone at their elbow as I speak, will ring a special number, depending on which answer they choose. Once the vote is recorded, a computer gives us the voting breakdown, and we'll be able to bring you the answer within minutes. So, if the TSW 200 are ready, here is the first question of our campaign to reflect what the South West is thinking. From what you know at present, which party do you think has the best solution to the problem of unemployment in Britain? All right, from what you know at present, which party do you think has the best solution to the problem of unemployment in Britain? Well, the panel have a list of telephone numbers in front of them, and I'd like you, panel, to choose your answers from this list. If you think the answer to that question is the Conservatives, ring the number against answer 1. For Labour, do that for answer 2. If your choice is the Alliance, it's the number for answer 3. For any other party, choose answer 4. And if you don't know at present, or you can't make up your mind, choose answer 5. So there you have it, from 1 to 5, Conservative, Labour, Alliance, others, and don't know. Can I ask you, TSW 200, please to vote now. Please ring your number and record your vote. Well, we'll have the answer as soon as we can, and we'll be back with that and more after the break.
And welcome back. With the holiday weekend coming up, the Prideaux Broun family of Padstow in Cornwall will be having rather more visitors than they used to. On Sunday, they'll be opening up their magnificent country house to the public for the first time in 400 years.
From any angle, Prideaux Place is a 16th century gem. It was built just before the Spanish Armada, with elegant Gothic extensions, all set in 60 acres. It's been a family estate since the dissolution of the monasteries. Behind these walls, Prideaux Place remained a private treasure house through half of modern history, from the first Queen Elizabeth right up until the second. But this weekend, the doors will finally admit the public. John Prideaux Broun, landowner and composer, is learning to be a tourist guide. But why is he doing it?
Well, because I've got a new roof. That's the simple answer to that, and I'm hoping to get a grant from English Heritage for this, and it is a condition of the grant that I open to the public.
Well, it's a magnificent place. I mean, just before the public do actually come in, could you show us some of the main rooms? Could you?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
The dynasty of the Prideaux Brouns is well connected. Marriages have linked them to the Grenvilles of Stowe, the Fortescues and the Mountbattens. Bomber Harris, Marshal of the Royal Air Force, was brother-in-law to Mr. Prideaux. The Cornish artist John Opie stayed in this house and left a legacy of family portraits. This lady could well be the resident ghost. Honor Fortescue, great-great-great-grandmother of the owner, is said to have fallen to her death from the balcony. And hidden treasure has come to light during restoration. Until quite recently, this colossal ceiling in the Great Gallery was covered up. It dates from 1585 and tells the biblical story of Susanna and the elders.
This is the dining room, and it has the portrait of Sir Nicholas Prideaux, who built the house in 1585. There was a mantelpiece, And it has this rather fine panelling in here, 3 lots of panelling.
It's basically an original Elizabethan panelled room, then?
Yes.
Nothing has changed in 400 years?
Well, as far as we know, no. Although it always does look to me as though this panelling may have been fitted in from somewhere else because it doesn't quite fit.
John Prideaux admits that his family motto, toujours prêt, is sadly inappropriate. He certainly wasn't prepared for the vast expense of re-roofing 400 years of history. But the government grant does mean that the public can at least get a glimpse of how the other half lived. And while only half a dozen rooms will be opened, the Prideaux still have another 80 to call their own.
A lovely house and well worth a visit. A Somerset dairy is working on an invention which seems certain to change forever one of the country's most cherished luxuries, ice cream. Now, you might have thought there was nothing wrong with the way we buy it at the moment, scooped from tubs and plonked into cones. But wait till you see the Somerset golf ball.
A refrigerator topped with coloured balls. Slightly comic perhaps, but what's underneath is deadly serious. This device is going to revolutionise the great British ice cream. The old-fashioned way of selling it is by scooping it out of tubs. Most fridges have room for just a handful of flavours, and so anyone who wants coffee, maple and walnut often has to go without. But no more.
The best way to describe it is if you could picture a strip of Aspros times 1,000, and this is a strip of ice creams which just pop out of the pot onto the cone. There's no washing of scoops to do, no cross flavours where you get one flavour on the scoop and transfer it to another. And it's fast and it's hygienic.
It's fast, it's hygienic, it saves space, but isn't it slightly a shame that it's going to dispense with the scoop that's beloved of so many holidaymakers?
Hopefully it will. However, the ice cream business has been built up for ages, and people will always prefer a handmade, hand-scooped product.
Yes, there'll always be the die-hard traditionalist, the tub man. Indeed, you can't help wondering if this isn't tampering a little too much with tradition. But inquiries from abroad already suggest otherwise, and the Somerset golf ball looks like being quite a scoop.
I'll eat that stuff any shape it comes. Well, just a few moments ago, we put the first of our questions on a major election issue in the southwest to our panel of viewers at home, the TSW 200. Chris now has the results of that high-tech poll. Chris.
Thank you, John. Well, this is certainly one of the fastest expressions of opinion in this election, because it's only about 6 minutes since I asked the question, which was, you may remember, from what you know at present, which party has the best solution to the problem of unemployment in Britain? Well, the votes were cast very quickly, as you can understand, and the Southwest has spoken, and here are the results. What you think at the moment is that the Conservatives have the best policy because they picked up 36%. Now, Labour were in second place at 29%. The Alliance got 22%. There were no votes at all for the other parties, and Don't Knows actually came at 13%. And that's interesting on 2 counts. First, because the Alliance, who polled heavily second at the last general election, can be seen to be there in third place on this particular issue, and also a fair amount of Don't Knows, which could be picked up by the other parties as the campaign progresses. And that question may well come up again later in the campaign. And we could ask that again to see how much impact the political arguments have had. So there's the result, the first result from our TSW 200.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, of course, to all of those of you giving your votes so quickly on that. We'll be producing another of our special telephone polls in next Thursday's programme. Well, it's been a lovely day for the opening of the Devon County Show, but what about tomorrow? Well, the man with the answer to that question, Laurie Quayle.
I think if I was having a weather opinion poll, I would join the Don't Knows, because there are some questions, strange enough, all relating to this high out here in the Atlantic, which, as I said last night, is blocking all this here. So our weather tonight is coming in from the northeast, which is somewhat unusual, but that suggests, of course, that it could be a little bit chillier, and also I think there'll be a lot of clouds and certainly some rain on the eastern areas of our of our peninsula. So let's look now at the satellite. You see exactly what I mean. There it is, that band of cloud which has moved more westerly since that picture was taken earlier this afternoon. It's come right down past the country and through Wiltshire, Hampshire and Wiltshire into Dorset, and it's going to affect the eastern part of the area during the course of the evening. So we come to tonight's picture. This is what we see. I put here, it is sunny at the moment, but there is a lot of cloud already coming in from the eastern part, and during the course of the night that will turn into cloud undoubtedly. Temperatures, you see, quite chilly and cooler in the eastern areas. The wind staying up there north to northeasterly. If we transpose that into tomorrow, we get this picture. And there it is. That cloud should break up during the course of the morning, and we should have longer periods of sun during the course of the day. 16 degrees Celsius, the wind staying up there in the north. So your high tides, there they are, and your summary. Becoming cloudy with some rain, especially in the east, and tomorrow cloudy with sunny intervals.
Well, if you were watching last night, you'll have seen the amateur aviator Tim Lane and the World War II aircraft that he's rebuilt at his Dorset home. Well, it's taken him 4 years to renovate the Harvard trainer, and his next big problem was getting the engine going after rebuilding it from scratch. It's a 9-cylinder radial engine developing 600 horsepower, and if the slightest thing isn't right, well, it won't stop. Well, this was the scene in Tim's back garden a little after 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Is it all worth
I
it
don't know
now?
why he's stopping it.
Make it all worth it?
No oil pressure. No oil pressure.
Never mind, I'm told there was absolutely no damage to the engine at all. That was marvellous, isn't it, to rebuild that thing from scratch like that?
Absolutely fantastic.
Do you think you could do something
But do you
like
think his wife still loves him every weekend in the garage?
Love in the garage. That's it. Tomorrow night at 6 with Friday's show. Until then, from us all, good night.
I wouldn't.